What's Up Roadie was created as a safe space for the 12 million strong live entertainment and theatrical professionals. Peace and welcome everyone to What's Up Roadie. What's up, Roadie? What's up, Roadie? How you doing?
And I'm like, I know you're not paying my counterparts what you're trying to pay me. Mm-hmm. So I was 100%. Fine, and you have to walk away from things that don't serve you.
Because there's a black leadership does not take away it being a predominantly white institution.
Ever.
Because I don't want to get these theaters caught up that they appoint a black person, they good, because they're not. Because if the culture hasn't shifted, the work won't shift. And if the work won't shift, our communities will not be included in ways that we've been disenfranchised or pushed out for so long. So love the question, because I really feel like, especially those leaders who are getting appointed, they got a lot of work ahead of them. And I'm sending lots of energy and prayers, because I know that they're on the front lines with those board members, with their senior staff. And, as they invite us to the table, we've got to just come with just as much analysis and just as much fight to really break down and move them from being predominantly white to historically white, so that the theaters can actually be transformed and impact our communities.
To me, it means equal playing field. It means all workers, management, everybody is able to have a just and fair working space, working environment, upward mobility, chances for opportunity, things like that. Right. Oftentimes we find that things aren't really spaced out to the point where everyone has the ability to get an opportunity allocated to them. And oftentimes it isn't just because it doesn't exist. It's more or less because the bridge hasn't been created. So for me, equity is the bridge.
Equity is about creating a space where I can show other people that look like me that this is also an opportunity to make a living, right? It's a place where I can feel like I actually, I don't actually feel like I have to stick out any more than I already do. And so for me, equity is actually not necessarily about, making sure that there's parity. It's more about inclusion. Mm-hmm. And when I look at it that way, for me, it's what makes me sort of proud to be the only African-American, especially African-American principal in a timpanist in a major symphony orchestra in the country. But at the same time, I realize there's a lot of work to do. And for me, I've tried to find the best way to do that. And the best way for me to do that I found is to be a good person and to try to be inclusive by showing other little black boys and girls that you can actually be in an orchestra and make a living. So
no, I think it feels so good to know that God has me right where I need to be, making the impact right where I need to make it. And I always say that God is going to open the doors that I need to walk through, and he's going to close the ones that he doesn't think I need to walk through. So it just feels so good that I'm making an impact where I can, where I am, and I'm doing my part.
I think that now in this virtual space and in this digital space that we are kind of forced to exist in, it is pushing people to be a little more authentic, and that's kind of foreign. And so I think for me that there lies the difference, that now authenticity or transparency is kind of looked at as, well, this is new, this is different, and it's kind of uncomfortable. In my experience, it's kind of uncomfortable to have people voice that same transparency or that authenticity of their struggles with this new virtual and digital space that we're existing in.
Right. For me, equity is always, on a gender or racial sense of it, has always been in the option of having the opportunity given to you based under your actual work ethic and merit, not filling a quota, whether that's for women in an obligation of the optics or whether that's of color, for however you want to look at it. I think there's a lot of disparity people don't realize in what you see on stage is not the equivalent of what the diversity seems to be backstage.
Yeah.
It's some things, right?
Attest to or know someone that has experienced those traumatic experiences in the industry naturally, right? What that turns into when you reach success is that you want to protect it. And so I'm not saying that it's it's a good mindset, but it's a survival tactic, right? An instinct. But at the same time, if we take that concept and we say that it, it came from slavery, because if we're talking about, it's crabs in a barrel, it existed then as well, right? And so those that got handpicked, who might have been in the house, there were those who fed into that concept for survival. But then there were others, as Tiffany, alluded to, who, because we are communal by nature, they took that risk, right? To, okay, I got access to these scraps, so I'm gonna pass these through the back door, and make sure y'all can get some of the same food that I'm eating, just to kind of share, whatever it is that they had. And I think that latter piece, when we are able to rise above the survival mindset of the trauma that you've experienced in the industry, and you can, go back into that communal space, that communal mindset, right? And make sure that you're helping to create wins for other people. That takes us back to that concept of equity, right? When you're courageous enough to, again, get to that point in life, but also want to figure out how can I also level the playing field for everyone else, so that they also don't have to experience that same journey. Yeah.
Well, a quote that stands out is from Debbie Allen, and it's like, out of limitation comes creativity. And so I've had to definitely use that in terms of creating a place. I mean, that's why I kind of started my company, because after traveling and performing all over the world, I came back to Chicago, which is supposed to be this, booming metropolis of diversity and all cultures. And it's still one of the most segregated cities I've ever lived in. And
for me, my career started with a Black crew. Even though I was still one of the only women, I wasn't the only Black person. And that brought a lot of comfort for me. And it wasn't until after I graduated that I started working with white male-dominated crew members. And that was uncomfortable, for sure. Like the lady said, not seeing yourself in a space, it's uncomfortable, and it can be just a slightly intimidating, just because there isn't that like family vibe that I always felt whenever I'm on a Black crew. And so for me, navigating through those white male spaces, I know I tend to just stick to myself. I'll do the job, I tend to try to do too much just to prove something to them, that I am just as good as you. But yeah, for me, it's about trying to prove something to those white men.
I was stage managing one of the 3 stages that we had for Trelectro.
Right.
And the next artist that I had coming up, like it felt like all of the fans, all of the attendees for all 3 stages came to mine all at once. And so I have done shows where a crowd will rush the stage, really understand. I feel you have to understand and respect the magnitude of the crowd and really what they can do. Right. Because security, it's just me on the stage. And security is like, we have to stop this. We got to shut it down. I was like, there's no way that I'm going to shut down this show, because the artist is literally sitting in the van right there. It's like, if you cancel this, they will bombard the stage. Like, this will not end well. And they just wouldn't budge. And so I remember I had to get on the radio. It was like, Derek, I need you to come up here now. And I think I met you as you were walking up, and I explained to you what was going on. I was like, it's only a 15-minute performance. Let him hit the stage. Like, so what's the problem? And I think I said, like, well, they probably only listen to somebody with 3 legs instead of 2.
That's the truth, because the work doesn't change. You think that you work for yourself and it's going to be easier, and that is not true. You think that you'll work for yourself and it's going to be less stressful and less busy, and that is most certainly not true. I just left my 9 to 5 a month ago, and I can tell you, I think I work harder now that I work for myself. The difference is it's very gratifying and satisfying to see the results and the fruits of your labor, you kindle other ideas in people, you kindle hope and inspiration in people. And in those moments, as all of us experience as business owners and as creators of some sort, when we feel low and we don't feel like we're really, we don't feel like we're worth our salt, getting those responses and that feedback just gives us more of a receipt as to, to solidify the fact that what we're putting out is definitely making an impact. It was amazing. It makes me want to continue to work. It makes me want to push it forward.
State your rate, or they tell you what rate it is, and then you negotiate. So there's never a real space to want to be like, what did you get? And it almost is different by department. It's kind of like, I know audio might be getting more than me. I don't need to question that. You know what I mean? Like, it almost plays into the real necessity of, if everything went away and the most important departments that are needed, don't get it twisted. They're so I think it's not a conversation to have, because everyone's department is so deeply different and their role in it is different. And I think in the back of everyone's head, it's like, I chose this rate, so what's there to talk about? As long as I can pay for my dinner when we go out, we're all good,
I agree with that.
Country, and the truth is that this country was built on the backs of Black people. That the United States of America, that the world, because we can bring it back home to the motherland, the root Africa, this is where the creativity lies and is the source, right? And so, what do we say, or how do we get to? I think the money being released. I almost want to sing the song. I know y'all, here I go, right? Where the money reside. Like, like, really?
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, and so there is that. There is us as a people not getting, letting our foot off of their necks to say, do the right thing. But at the same point, there is also, how do we galvanize within our own communities to continue to do the work, the necessary work to get us to those goals, to that place of really having our art, our music, our language, our dances, our culture, all of that truly accepted by just our people and celebrated by our people. There is power in that.
And if you focus too much on the past, that's depression. Too much on the future, that's anxiety. So you can't control what has or has not already happened. So that's the one thing that has been keeping me sane and centered and leveled in this shit-tastic of a world right now. That's what's been getting me through. I mean, if I'm lying.
I think for me, it makes me feel highly supported, knowing that I'm walking in my alignment, I think when you're walking in your alignment with the vision that you had before you came to this earth, I fully understand and know that it was a conscious decision for all of us to come here, even if we don't remember it, so when we came to this earth and we decided and we agreed with God, this is our assignment, and then to walk, and then we walking out an assignment, unless you got the support of God, you know what I mean? And then when you have that support, it's literally every single thing in your environment is also aiding you in that, opposed to you like not walking in your purpose and then everything is kind of moving against you, you know what I mean? So I feel supported in it. I feel divinely empowered by it. I feel hella expanded, like mentally, knowing that like in this particular realm of like existence and the way that I'm creating support and solution for people, that like any idea that comes to my mind can be accomplished. And that just feels like magic. You feel like the magician. You like, damn, I did that. Like
What should be done is removing barriers, simple barriers, like the application
process. Like the expectations that your resume is supposed to look XYZ, that like if it's not done this way, then it's not right. I mean, someone said this to me recently. You said, you know, Black people know how to make art. We know how to make us some art. We are creative. We are the most creative. It's the business part that we often fall short in. And it's because we're not taught those things. We don't understand, you know, if I've been doing my budget with an Excel document because that's what I know and it's been successful, but then when I'm applying for this grant, you want me to use this completely new system to me and I'm not, you know what, that's intimidating. And I think it's really removing barriers that do not matter. And I think that is first and foremost what has to happen.
Yeah, so to answer your question, 2020 was a year of huge transformation, huge loss, but also transition and things that needed to be done. I'm Ryan Jamal Swain. I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. I'm the eldest of four, you know, and I think as we move into 2021, I think my hope and my desire and my prayer is that we have space for a huge reckoning, both spiritually, physically, mentally. I know for me, that would be amazing. And then also just to know that we're doing what we need to do to be where we need to be.
A lot of people, what I really hope that organizations start to think about is their culture. And you talk about narrative. If the culture of organizations are not created through a lens of equity in terms of how we talk to each other, how we understand people's identities, how people interact with art making, if those who are working on the inside of these organizations don't have a sense of culture, then we can only expect what we see on the other side. Shows that are not set up for us, theaters that don't welcome our communities. So I think there is an approach of breaking barriers or removing barriers, and then there's something about how our organizations work internally that impact how our communities receive and work in the arts or receive the theater that we create.
Mindfulness, that's absolutely also the one thing that everyone can do that's completely free. You don't even have to get out of bed really to do this, but it's free and it's the most beneficial thing that you could do for your mental well-being is stretch and learn how to deep breathe. Completely free.
Completely. It's the fuel. It's what keeps us going. Like without the community, there is no market for any of this. And I think like that's one of the things that we tend to forget a lot. Like we think it's the person on the forefront, but in reality, it's that energy that we get from the community. It's that alignment that we get from the community. It's the even empathy that we get from the community. Like that is critical to everything that we're doing in the digital space.
Completely in our community with our leadership too. Too many times resources go to the north side and pull the kids from the south side to come do their program on the north side. It's like, but hold on. This company Exactly. This company has been here for years, has been doing the work that white theater actually adapted their program based on our work.
Right.
Actually, everybody who worked
They got a diversity grant.
Exactly.
There you go.
It is.
That leads me right. You know, I used to be the kind of tour manager, like I was super firm and like, this is how it's going to be. But, you know, over time I learned like kindness moves a lot faster and farther than being firm and like, you know, feel like this is my authority. Like this is, you know, so instead I've been able to kind of like over time change the way I communicate and how it sounds coming out of my mouth just to get what I need and get to where we need to go on the tour moving forward. So that's a great question.
I guess just so much being able to fit in and thrive in whatever facet of your particular interest and what you do well in without conditions and without underlying reasons for doing it, and not just being the token Black person and you get, you know, you get perks just because you serve as the entity that's this many people or like 8% of it, and just being good and like you get all the credit that you need to get because you are dope, and that's really what it means for me.
Leave us with.
I definitely be honest, be open-minded, be willing, And listen, remember that the process isn't pretty, but it's necessary. Remember that change is inevitable, growth is optional, and the growth is in your honesty. You have to remember that you have to focus on, you know, your journey and your progress. When I stay in my lane, running my race, I win every time. So, you know, just focus on your goal and never minimize your experience. Never minimize your experience and celebrate your success, whether great or small.
If one link fails, the whole thing goes into the toilet, right? It all has to work. And so, you know, and that's one of the things that I think Noelle and I learned on the fly with Capital Percussion is that, like, you have to make sure that the gear goes out in perfect condition. And, you know, having, you know, the hustle that we used to do when we first got started, like, it was a stretch. But, you know, you grow, you get lucky, you get a few clients that give you a chance. And when you succeed, they call you back. And it just so happens that, you know, like, I have grinded to try to find, you know, some quality, loyal clients, and they've returned the favor. And so just having good people, Noelle will always be my first call for a tech, because she presents herself, she makes the company look good. They might never see me thing, but Noelle shows up. She's always on time, she's always with a smile, her hair is always laid, like it's always a good thing, and she makes me look good. And it's those type of people you want to surround yourself with. You surround yourself with people that know more than you, that are better than you, that can provide value to you and to your company and to your life. And it's a reciprocal uplift. And that's what makes it so great, right? She adds value to my life because she makes my company grow. And I like to think I add value to her life because I'm trying to, you know, like we work together. And it's that sort of camaraderie, it's that sort of familial bond that I've tried to create with my company. And I'd like to think, knock, knock, that I've done a pretty good job of doing that. So.
Wow, nice.
I think we see these waves consistently, you know, kind of it ebbs and it flows. So quite possibly it's a trend. It is popular to be pro-Black right now. But I think there's opportunity still. There is benefit and it's still beauty in it still. I think in order to see it be sustained, we have to continue to know our worth and to push for it and forward. We have to continue to hold people's feet to the fire. We have to continue, those of us who want to create our own work, to be creating and pushing for it to be made, while also pushing to diversify other spaces. I think both have to happen at the same time. I think, so yeah, I do think that it's probably a trend, but I think that it can still lead to something.
You gotta be what you see. And the only way you can see it is if somebody's kind enough to let you in, period. And women aren't the best with that when it comes to possession and when it comes to competition and when it comes to odds. Years of doing VIP stuff, one of the best things that came out of it is because I'm social, is that it's one thing to hire assistants locally from Live Nation or whoever that has a list of people for me to hire in Chicago, right? It's another thing to have somebody in the VIP party and a chick walk up and be like, yo, how do I do your job? Like, how do you get that job? You, I will keep your name and I'm coming back here 2-3 times a year anyway. So if you really mean it, do you want me to pay you to watch the show and get fed? Or do you want to buy your own ticket to the show? Just promise me you aren't going to take pictures backstage and I'll answer every question you have. I've learned after 10 years of people emailing me back in thank yous that most people don't do that. And I didn't know that because this wasn't like my extension came from something a family or from whatever. I just busted my hump. You couldn't ignore me any further. And then I got in. But when I got in, I was like, I have to do everything in my power to get anyone I know that asks me how you do this to see it. Because if you see what backstage is and you realize it's just a 9-to-5 on wheels and it's not this fantastical place of curtains and security guards and dogs and money, it's none of that. It's really a 9-to-5 on wheels. You will be taken from your family. You will have to make decisions as a woman about your life, children, marriage, timelines, all of that stuff. But you don't know to think this way until someone's kind enough to really let you in and see it. So I believe the only way to do it is, especially if people of color, let's remove gender, is you have to push your ego aside and share.
I always teach people or people that I've tried to pull up. They say, well, I don't know what lane to go into. And I say, stop trying to create a lane and create a highway, or stop trying to be in somebody's lane and create your own highway. And it seems like you say you're creating a lane. No. You've created a highway of your own. You know, it's just how far do you want that highway to go? And this is from everybody who's on this panel. I'm hearing more of sometimes noise can be silence for us.
Mm-hmm.
And that there's beauty in that, because when you're a creative mind, you need that noise in order to continue creating. And so it makes me, it gives me that warm and fuzzy feeling when I hear that everybody on here said, you know what, I need my noise. And so in order to get that noise, I'm going to create my own. And so kudos to all of you. I hope that everybody who's watching learns something from that, because however you get your silence and your peace, please get it. Because I feel that professionalism is professionalism. Being on time is important. Showing up and doing your job correctly is important. That doesn't mean that you're white because you're doing it correctly. And I think that that's where the problem lies. We're constantly told that, to your point, Dr. Knight, white is right. No, right is right. So pretty much do your job. I'm just saying.
On the flip side, sometimes it's scary to ask. You know, sometimes it's really scary to ask. I know me and Noelle had like side conversations about this multiple times, but normalizing that conversation, normalizing that the social media world is hard. We don't know what we're doing. We don't know what's gonna stick, you know, and just saying like, hey guys, like, can you just post this real quick? I'll talk to you about it later, but just post it. And I think like getting out of that fear of asking the people in our lives, even if, you know, their content doesn't align in the best way, or, you know, you don't know if their followers will engage with it, just that extra confidence kind of helps when you're able to ask a friend to do that.
Well, I think that, you know, just preface that, thank you for that, first off. But then also, we've always been here, right? Like, we've always been in this industry. I mean, it ain't nothing new. I think that what Pose did well was that it showed that you could cast and put people behind the scenes and in front of the camera authentically, and it can sell. It's marketable, right? And you know, for me personally, what that show has given me is the unapologetic permission to choose my truth over my safety, and I'm going to explain that a little bit more in depth. Because, you know, when you choose your truth, when you choose your authenticity, sometimes it doesn't warrant your safety. You know what I mean? And even in this very conversation when we're talking about, you know, barbers, what we need, you know, hair, etc. There's always this risk that you're taking to not be seen in your full self. But indeed, knowing that your superpower and you being truthful is indeed what makes you marketable, magical, you know? And I find that, you know, the show, although it takes a very specific amount of marginalized people, it illuminates a universal truth, no matter what it is. All of us want acceptance. All of us want love. All of us want to leave a mark. And so what that does is it provides a sense of equity and empathy and compassion for people outside of that subcategory, right? I mean,
what I would say is talk about it. Like, that's okay. That's okay. The good, the bad, just talk about it with somebody. Yes. Anybody. Like, just get it out. That's the biggest thing for me. And, you know, if you don't want to talk to somebody, write it down. Just get it out.
Yeah, don't hold on to that negative energy, because that negative energy ain't gonna do nothing but just
it's not
gonna darken your energy, and all we want to do is live in the light. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
I almost lost a job over wanting my barber to come to set to cut my hair because they didn't have anybody to cut my hair. I almost lost my job because of someone spreading some misinformation about how I asked for this haircut. There
there were lies being spread that I was asking for $300 haircuts. Haircut cost me $50, you know what I mean, with tip, you know. But I had to outsource my haircuts. And the other girl who was the lead on this top billing show also had no one to do her hair on there. She's a woman of color as well. She had no one to do her hair. Something that simple, you know what I mean? We're not prioritized when it comes to our needs, but every Black hair and makeup artist in the trailer needs to know how to do everything, you know, but sell hotcakes. You know what I'm saying? So it's very odd, you know, to see in 2021, even still the constant mistreatment, the lack of equality.
When it comes to code switching, in my personal experience, I have to come at it from two ends, being both a roadie of color and then being a woman. So yes, I code switch. It's when it comes to speaking to men, I feel more comfortable code switching when I'm speaking to a man, preferably a person of color. It's what I'm used to. Like I can take it back to, you know, living in North New Jersey. And so I know how to switch it up so that one, you hear me, and then also you see and understand me. Like most people would expect, you know, the only woman on crew to be meek, not be, you know, louder than the guys, to just be like, oh, okay, that's fine. Excuse me. Like, no, there's none of that. And that's stuff I had to learn. Thankfully, I had a mentor as well, Theron. She helped guide me, especially when it came to being the only woman on crew. Like, basically, that's what I've done, be it lighting, stage managing, or backline, especially with backline. I'm the only female.
Like the burden of the blessing, right? Like God has given us this blessing.
The burden of the blessing.
But we have a burden to carry with that, you know, like no blessing is easy. If it's in your purpose, if it's in your calling, you know, it's not going to come easy. And
true support, repost, share, go see that shit. I don't let my friends even give me free tickets to their movies. I'm going to pay for it, or I'll send somebody else to it. You know what I'm saying? That kind of stuff. Honestly, but for me, it always, I don't want to be preachy, but it always comes back to faith for me. There's nothing on this earth that I've ever wanted that I don't think that God would give me. You know what I'm saying? So I don't see anybody having anything that I want that I can't get for myself. The only time jealousy really creeps in is when someone has something that is intangible that you cannot recreate. That's generally what it is. So for me personally, I don't know, I don't have a jealous bone in my body. I can honestly say, I've said to myself, like, God, what about me? Like, me too, but not me instead of, you know what I'm saying? So I think that's kind of the difference. But
I know that I get frustrated seeing the Black category. Like, why isn't this movie just amongst the drama? Why is it a Black drama? When Black is American history, so to some way it still is like, and then when you step back, I call it
performative shit. It's performative as hell. Just like, why y'all? What's
like?
really
I gotta go to the back of the stacks. I'm ready to find. Why do I have to search for the Black drama?
Yeah,
the drama.
Where I'm gonna kind of spin this into a question is, people don't get jobs because of what your resume says. You don't get jobs because of what your education says. And truth be told, you don't go to school just to go get a degree. You go to school to go get a network. And you get to school to go meet the people who you build relationships with, so that when they go get a job, they're like, oh, you know what? I know somebody who can do this. And so part of that is being receptive enough to say, I see you. I see what you're doing. I see what you're working on. When I hit it, when I get it, I got you.
I have something to add. Actually, like as I'm writing it down, Malik, you said it. It was something actually Jamari and I were speaking about how we will fight to, you know, somehow get in through the back door so that we can open up a window for our peers. But then you run into, but why can't I go through the front door? And they feel like, you know, we should we should give it to you all on a silver plate. Like you can't climb through this window. I picked the lock on the back door.
You know, you have to keep dancing, keep pirouetting, keep figuring it out. And, if it's that, you have to keep moving as an artist, there will always be obstacles in our way, So I don't know what's going to happen next year, but, who knows? So, but we have to always keep being creative, that's I really agree on being creative,
I'll weigh in. I'll say if I've been shielded by a mentor, I say my mentors more so have shielded me from myself. So you could just use what Noel was saying for an example, just being naive in the industry. But I think of more so my mentors getting on me as them literally, if you don't know better, you won't do better. So your mentors, letting you know that. I think of that as them shielding you from yourself. And I know when you're young, at least for me, when I was young and first getting in the industry, I was really, really eager and really, really ambitious, and I tried to do too much and try to show too much and try to prove myself. And so sometimes, your mentors, they tell you, yo, pump your brakes. And I'm like, yo, chill out. Like, they're saving you from yourself. That's how, it was for me. My mentors would save me from myself instead of me making bad decisions, just being naive. They're actually telling me, like, do better. But I understand you didn't know better, so I couldn't expect it. But now that you do know, it's over next time. Like, don't make that mistake.
Although I'm not in this industry, two things come to mind for me that I would like to share. One, always hone your craft, right? Be the best that you can be at what you're doing. And the second for me is exposing yourself to counter stereotypical exemplars, right? So normally speaking, we may not have in proportionate numbers the amount of females or Blacks in certain industries, but let's find where they are and let's continue to expose ourselves to who they are and where they are, and use that as a mental model as we're continuing to hone our craft and push ourselves forward to make our name in whatever industry we're working in.
Information is power. So knowledge, like you honing your craft, learning as much as you can learn. Information is power. So if they have something and that's keeping their job and that's keeping their name in other people's mouth, and they see you as a threat, because as people of color, we're looked at each other as a threat, and for some reason we were taught that goes back into the history, but we were taught to fight to the death. So we see each other as our own competition.
Right.
It's not. I don't think it's on purpose. I just think it's a learned behavior that if you don't know you're even doing it. It's survivalism, I guess.
Yeah.
And so just distinguishing between professional and personal. But again, as we talk about how this idea of navigating spaces and code switching, when we are not just interacting within our own communities, it means something a little bit different. It means going into a space, being very conscious about how you can operate, what you can say, because you don't want to stir up any trouble. But it also means dismissing the craziness that you hear others say, which is a whole nother level of code switching, that you have to learn, which then changes it from, like I said, how it was introduced when you have to operate in your own internal community, which it can be considered a gift. To be able to turn it on, turn it off, it was a gift, to more of a survival tactic when you get into these workspaces. And so when you think about survival, again, that word to me is connected to trauma. You're constantly responding in a way to avoid experiencing something or letting yourself down, letting your community down. If you're just thinking like, why didn't I say, and I know you asked about George Floyd, but I did think about Sandra Bland and how, her response, had she code switched while she was sitting in the car, her life could have been different. Had she not put out a cigarette, done something that wasn't against the law, like did she really have to go at great lengths? And so I'm not going to steer us down that path, but that's literally what I think about, is that on the one hand, it's looked at as a gift. However, the way we're describing it in this sense and working in this industry, it sounds more of like a survival technique.
Sure, mine is short and sweet. Always remember, Black joy, Black love, healthy Black minds are revolutionary. When people tell you, or people try to tell you that they're not, or downplay it, it's revolutionary, period. No ifs, ands, or buts about that.
You can call me back in a couple months ago. What happened? I thought you said, and I'll be telling you the same thing. This too shall pass, because nothing lasts forever. It's got to move on. So keep it positive, everybody. Please keep it positive.
Appreciate that with that one. I want to leave with all of you. Love yourself, number one. Number two, start following and loving on the people who are adding value, meaning everybody on this platform is adding value in one way or another. Everybody has something that they can teach, or something that you can learn from. Please stop bypassing these amazing people and love on them. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, let's go.
Let's turn up tonight. Let's go.
Make America great for once. Let's do it. Peace.
Thank you.
Peace. How you doing? How you doing? What's Up Roadie was created as a safe space for the 12 million strong live entertainment and theatrical professionals.